Likely economic crisis that may occur as US embark on midterm election. With less than a week to go until the midterm elections, registered voters' preferences are nearly evenly divided. 41% say they favor the Democratic candidates in their districts, while a nearly identical percentage, 40%, support Republican candidates. 18% are not sure how they will vote or favor candidates other than Republicans or Democrats. And those supporting GOP candidates are somewhat more engaged this election than their Democratic counterparts. They are more likely to have thought a lot about the election and to say the outcome really matters. As has been the case all year, the economy is clearly the top issue for voters. Fully 79% say it will be very important to their voting decisions, the highest share among 18 issues included on the survey. The public continues to take a dim view of current economic conditions. Just 17% of US adults say the economy is in excellent or good shape, little changed from the 13%. Who said this in July? 5 economic issues to watch. Inflation. Consumer prices surged 8.3% in August compared with the same month a year earlier, the government said in September. And while that is down from 8.5% in July and a 4-decade record of 9.1% in June, the number still remains stubbornly high. The Federal Reserve, the US central bank, is raising interest rates to make it pricier for American households and businesses to borrow cash. The goal is to bring supply and demand into balance. Cooling demand will eventually lower prices, the Fed hopes. But the rate increases haven't been carried out without controversy. Interest rate hikes spook homebuyers and investors on Wall Street. They risk dipping the economy into a deep recession by eroding demand and damaging long-term economic growth. The Fed will meet again, just days before the midterm elections, to decide on yet another rate hike. The truth is we're having to pay for policies which there were no plans to pay for, McLaughlin said. My main concern is really fiscal responsibility. If Congress and administrations were more fiscally responsible, inflation would take care of itself. Unemployment and wage growth. When it comes to the jobs market, a new mantra has surfaced among policymakers and economists: bad news is good news. If unemployment goes up, hopefully just a little bit, that brings inflation under control, DeRitis said. That's been the Fed's playbook. But the US jobs market has remained resilient despite the Fed taking action. Data this week, however, did show that US jobs openings fell by 1.1 million in August and jobless claims increased by more than expected. These mixed signals make it difficult to predict just how hawkish the Fed will be in its future rate hikes. The unemployment rate continues to hover at a historic low of 3.7%, and job vacancies are high despite talk of an impending recession. Americans remain concerned about jobs, nevertheless. 68% of those asked in the Monmouth survey ranked jobs and unemployment as an extremely or very important issue deserving the government's attention. Petroleum price. The White House has worked hard in recent months to bring petrol prices down. Gas prices are always a wild card in US elections, Crane said. Voters mistakenly blame the president and his party for high prices. But in reality, the US government has almost nothing to do with the price of fuel. In March, as prices at the pump spiked after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Biden announced the release of up to 180 million barrels of crude oil from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, a stockpile tapped in times of national emergency. The releases were scheduled to end in October, but the White House has since extended the deadline for at least another month and made another 10 million barrels from the reserve available. Housing crisis. Housing is the most interest rate sensitive sector of the economy, DeRitis said. In the past year, interest rates for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage have more than doubled from 3.01% in October 2021 to 6.66% this week. The pandemic sparked a home buying frenzy in the US and caused home prices to skyrocket. The value of a typical home is currently $356,026, up 16.5% from a year ago. Higher borrowing costs mean millions of Americans could be locked out of owning a home. Those Americans who had planned to buy a house but can no longer afford it might take that frustration out at the polls. If house prices remain high and with the increases in the cost of a mortgage, that makes it more unaffordable for households to buy, and they switch to renting, which actually causes rents to go up, the writers said. The Fed wants housing to slow down. On the one hand, they are slowing sales, but on the other hand, they are increasing rents. And so, inflation continues to rise. Student loan forgiveness. Student loan debt has been a hot issue for years, especially among millions of young Americans saddled with thousands of dollars of student debt. By late summer, Biden had announced that he would forgive at least $10,000 in student loans for many debt-laden university graduates earning less than $125,000 a year. Students who received federal Pell Grants for lower-income families would get $20,000 in debt forgiveness. Subscribe for more market information.